At 10:35 hours on February 8, 1943, a 17-year-old girl stands beneath a winter bare tree in the center of Bosanska Krupa. The air is so cold it burns the lungs. Somewhere in the distance, the muffled crunch of boots on frozen mud. The murmur of voices, some curious, some horrified, some deliberately silent. German soldiers form a perimeter around the town square, their breath visible in the February air. A rope hangs from the branch above her. She does not tremble. Her hands, raw from 3 days of interrogation, hang steady at her sides. Her face, bruised, exhausted, but unbroken, shows no fear. The Nazi officer beside her speaks, low and measured, offering one final chance. "Give us the names, the locations, your comrades." She looks past him toward the faces in the crowd, her people. And then she opens her mouth. What happens next will echo through history. But to understand why this moment mattered, why this girl became a symbol of defiance that even her enemies could not erase, we need to go back to where courage is born. December 19th, 1925. In the small village of Gašnica, near Bosanska Gradiška in Bosnia and Herzegovina, a girl named Lepa Radić enters the world. Her family is Bosnian Serb, deeply rooted in the labor movement and quietly aligned with ideals that challenge the government. Her father, Svetitar, works the land but keeps banned books hidden in the house. Her uncle, Lepa Radić, is actively involved in the underground labor movement, a dangerous association in a region where dissent is crushed without mercy. Lepa grows up reading those forbidden books. She attends school in neighboring Bistrica, then the women's craft school in Bosanska Krupa with her older sister, Dara. Teachers remember her as hardworking, serious, someone who reached for advanced literature when other children played. She is curious, principled, and by the time she turns 15, she is a member of the League of Communist Youth of Yugoslavia. In early 1941, she officially joins the Communist Party of Yugoslavia. She is 15 years old. Would you call this bravery or inevitability? When you grow up surrounded by resistance, does courage become an inheritance? April 10th, 1941. The Axis powers invade Yugoslavia. Within days, the country fractures. The independent state of Croatia, a Nazi puppet state, is established, and the Ustaše, the fascist collaborators who enforce Nazi rule, begin their work. Arrests, disappearances, public warnings. Lepa's father and uncles joined the Yugoslav Partisans that summer, a communist-led resistance movement that vows to fight the occupation at any cost. They operate in the shadows, moving through forests and villages, striking where they can and vanishing before retaliation arrives. November 1941. The Ustaše come for the Radić family. Every member, Lepa, her sister Dara, her father, her uncles. They are taken to Stara Gradiška prison in Croatia, a place where few return. For weeks, they are held in isolation. Lepa is 15. On December 23, 1941, undercover partisans execute a daring rescue. They manage to free Lepa and her sister Dara from the prison, but not their father, not their uncles. The men are executed shortly after. Lepa and Dara escape with their lives and the knowledge that their family paid the price for resistance. 1 month later, both sisters joined the 7th Partisan Company of the 2nd Krajiški Detachment. Lepa is still 15. If you were her age, could you have done the same? The Yugoslav partisans are not a traditional army. They are farmers, students, workers, ordinary people who chose to fight rather than submit. They operate in brutal conditions, constant movement, scarce supplies, and an enemy that outnumbers and outguns them at every turn. But they have something the Axis cannot break: resolve. One of their core principles is simple: never leave the wounded behind. The Nazis and their allies routinely execute partisan casualties, so the partisans vow to evacuate every injured fighter, no matter the risk. Lepa takes on some of the most dangerous roles. She serves as a courier, carrying messages through enemy territory. She works as a nurse, tending to the wounded under fire, and when battles erupt, she fights. She participates in the Kozara offensive. She moves through forests at night, sleeps in makeshift shelters, and learns to recognize the sound of approaching patrols before they crest the ridge. Her comrades respect her. Despite her age, despite her gender, she proves herself again and again. Stories like this deserve to be remembered. If you want to see more untold courage, hit like. It helps these voices reach others. Stay with me. January 20th, 1943. The Axis powers launch Operation Weiss, known to the partisans as the Fourth Enemy Offensive, or Case White. It is one of the largest coordinated assaults against the Yugoslav resistance in the entire war. The Germans deploy 10 divisions, 90,000 troops, supported by 12 air squadrons. Chetnik auxiliaries, royalist forces who collaborate with the occupiers, add another 12,000 to 15,000 men to the operation. Their objective: destroy the partisan command structure and annihilate resistance in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The partisans are outnumbered 3-1. The offensive spans weeks, driving the partisans south and east across brutal winter terrain. Towns fall, supply lines collapse, casualties mount. In mid-February, the fighting reaches the Neretva River. This becomes known as the Battle of Neretva, or the Battle for the Wounded. The partisans are attempting to evacuate thousands of injured fighters across the river while under relentless attack. Engineers work frantically to repair a damaged bridge, while rearguard units hold off advancing German divisions. Luftwaffe bombers circle overhead. Lepa Radić is tasked with transporting wounded soldiers to a field hospital near Germek. It is February 1943. She is 17 years old. Somewhere in the chaos of Operation Case White, Lepa encounters a group of approximately 150 women and children, refugees fleeing the advancing Axis forces. They are vulnerable, exhausted, terrified. Lepa takes responsibility for organizing their evacuation. But the 7th SS Volunteer Mountain Division Prince Eugene is closing in. The German unit is experienced, well-equipped, and ruthless. They have orders to eliminate partisan forces and anyone aiding them. Lepa and the refugees are surrounded. She could run, blend into the group, discard her weapon and pretend to be just another fleeing civilian. Instead, she opens fire. She engages the SS soldiers alone, using every round she has left in an attempt to buy the refugees time to scatter and escape. The reports say she never ran. When her ammunition runs out, the Germans storm forward and capture her. Is courage born or chosen? They take her to Bosanska Krupa. She is held in isolation. For 3 days, the Germans interrogate her, demanding names, locations, information about partisan movements and leadership. They use torture. The historical record does not detail the methods, and we will not speculate. What matters is this. For 72 hours, a 17-year-old girl endures unimaginable pressure, and she gives them nothing, only her name. On the third day, the Germans sentence her to death by hanging for firing upon an SS division. They inform her that the sentence will be carried out publicly in the town square as a warning to others. Even then, they continue to offer her a way out. Betray your comrades, give us the names, and you will live. She refuses. Morning breaks cold and gray over Bosanska Krupa. A makeshift gallows has been constructed in the town square, nothing more than a rope thrown over a thick branch of a tree. German soldiers stand in formation around the perimeter. Yugoslav civilians are forced to watch or gather out of grim curiosity. Lepa Radić is brought outside. She is 17 years old. Her body bears the marks of interrogation, but her eyes are steady. There is no trembling, no pleading. The Nazi officer in command approaches her one final time. He offers the deal again. Your life in exchange for information. Lepa looks at him, and then she turns toward the crowd. The noose is placed around her neck. She takes a breath, and she shouts, "Long live the Communist Party and Partisans! Fight, people, for your freedom! Do not surrender to the evildoers. I will be killed, but there are those who will avenge me." Her voice rings across the square. The officer scowls, furious. He asks again, a final, desperate attempt to break her. Lepa shouts a second time, then silence. At approximately 10:35 hours, Lepa Radić's life ends. But her defiance does not. In the aftermath, the Nazi officer files a report. It reads, "The bandit girl hanging in Bosanska Krupa has shown unprecedented defiance." Unprecedented. Even her enemies could not deny what they had witnessed. A 17-year-old girl, tortured for 3 days, standing before a gallows and refusing to break. She had intimidated them, not with violence, not with numbers, but with something far more powerful, the unshakable conviction that some things matter more than survival. The Nazis intended her final moments to serve as a warning. Instead, they became a rallying cry. Word of Lepa's stand spreads through the partisan ranks. Stories are told around campfires, in hidden shelters, among fighters who have lost so much already. She becomes a symbol, proof that even in the darkest moments, resistance is possible. That courage is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear dictate your choices. The war continues for more than 2 years after Lepa's final moments. The Yugoslav partisans, despite staggering losses, ultimately succeed in liberating their country from Axis occupation. They become one of the most effective resistance movements in all of World War II. But they do not forget. In 1951, 8 years after her passing, Lepa Radić is posthumously awarded the Order of the People's Hero, Yugoslavia's highest honor for wartime courage. She becomes the youngest person ever to receive it. Her story is taught in schools. Monuments are erected. Do you think courage like this still exists today? Her name becomes synonymous with defiance, sacrifice, and the quiet strength of those who refuse to be broken. Decades later, a soldier visiting a museum in Yugoslavia stops in front of a photograph. "That is my uncle's sister," he says, almost in disbelief. And that is how more details of Lepa Radić's story come to light, through the memories of family, through the recollections of those who knew her, through the enduring power of a legacy that cannot be erased. When we think of World War II, we often imagine grand armies, famous generals, pivotal battles that turned the tide of history. But wars are not won only by those things. They are won by individuals, ordinary people who find themselves in extraordinary circumstances and make a choice. Lepa Radić was 15 when she joined the Partisans, 17 when she stood beneath that tree. She had every reason to save herself, every justification for giving the Germans what they wanted. But she chose differently, not because she did not feel fear. The historical record gives us no reason to believe she was anything other than fully human, fully aware of what was happening. But because in that moment, protecting her comrades mattered more than her own survival. There is something profoundly human in that choice. It reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming brutality, even when the odds are impossible, even when no one would blame you for surrendering, the capacity for courage remains. It lives in the 16-year-old courier carrying messages through enemy lines, in the nurse who stays with the wounded when retreat is ordered, in the girl who opens fire to buy strangers a few more seconds to escape. Lepa Radić did not survive the war, but her story did. And perhaps that is the point. Courage does not always win the battle, but it inspires others to keep fighting. Defiance does not always save your life, but it proves that life without freedom is not worth living. And a single voice, shouting in the face of tyranny, can echo across generations. On a cold February morning in 1943, beneath winter bare tree in Bosanska Krupa, a 17-year-old girl refused to be silent. Her final words were not a plea for mercy. They were a promise. I will be killed, but there are those who will avenge me. And she was right. Not through violence, not through vengeance, but through memory. Through the refusal to let her story be erased. Through the understanding that some acts of courage are so profound, so undeniable, that even enemies must acknowledge them. Lepa Radić lived 17 years, but in those final moments, she became something more than a girl from a small village in Bosnia. She became proof that defiance is possible, that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it, and that even when darkness seems overwhelming, a single voice can still be heard. Her name was Lepa Radić, and she did not surrender. If her story moved you, subscribe, not for numbers, but for remembrance. Every week, we uncover more forgotten stories of courage from World War II. Together, we keep their voices alive. You're not just watching history, you're helping preserve it. Thank you for keeping these stories alive.